The question is, what can organizations do to look beyond the re-entry of women in their workforce? And today, we are gaining perspectives from someone who has a diverse career spanning across decades. And with me in conversation is Archana Chadha, who is the head human resources for HSBC India. Hi Archana, I'm very excited to have this discussion with you today. To start with, I want to know that with your journey and today being a women leader, could you underline few of the challenges that women usually face through this journey, and any tips for the younger generation as to how to reach the role of their dreams?
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I think challenges are faced by everybody, not only women. It's just that you have to deal with different phases of your life. And, when I started working, I was not sure whether I want to pursue a career or what do I want to do. So the challenges started from there. And then I ended up being with HSBC, and I've been with them for 23 years now. So been here forever. But the kind of issues that you face is, first of all, dilemma about what you want to do. And then when you get married, it is like, okay, which career is going to be taking precedence? So you need to have those conversations very upfront with your partner to say, how are we going to manage these kind of situations? And sometimes you don't have to prepare a lot, just take it, one day at a time. And for the other one big challenge that I did have is I had a very complicated pregnancy. So motherhood for me was very difficult. I was on bed rest, and I just didn't know how was I going to go about it if I was ever coming back to the workforce. But I must tell you, my doctor used to tell me, Archana, one day at a time. And that was another complication I dealt with, being a woman. And last but not the least, right now in the stage of life that I am in, dealing with menopause, dealing with hot flushes, my only advice to you as a young woman who's stepping into the industry is find an organization that is going to support you through the different phases of the life that you go through, because the physical changes are as important. Work you will do, work you will deliver. Once you bring your best self to the work, that's not going to be a challenge. And the competition you have, even the men have at work. So that's not at all a challenge. These are the things that you want to be sure that you get the nuanced support that is required. So that's my only advice to you.
I would want to take a note from something that you said, balancing self versus business. As a women leader and as a representative of your organization, what are the various policies or strategies that one could put in place so that it's easier for one to do that, play both the role with as much importance as they are?
The infrastructure is really important. So, before COVID, flexible working was a strategic imperative for me, because we were like, we want more people to work flexibly, and we had all the policies in place, but COVID just brought it to life. That people who were skeptical were also made to believe that it happens and it's possible and everyone can do it. So I think that now we have got policies which have got part-time working from home, flexible working. And for me, the whole definition of work-life balance is not I'm going to work 8 hours and I'm going to rest 8 hours. It's like about how in my work day I'm able to balance my personal stuff, and my personal time I'm able to bring in some of my work elements. So it's just the balance that you have. And I think the most important thing besides the policies of flexibility is ensuring the environment doesn't have an unconscious bias for people who opt for this flexibility, because I think that is the biggest barrier to any policy that you launch. And last but not the least, I think as an organization, we provide a lot of wellness support, whether it is physical, whether it is mental health, whether it is financial well-being. We are very strong on these parameters. And I'll just give you an example. Headspace as an app is provided free of staff to all our staff globally so that they can get their support for mental health. We've got something similar for physical health too. So very, very focused and committed to creating an environment where you can avail of flexibility.
Great initiatives there, but when it also comes to growth, are there any specific strategies which kind of empower women to reach, say, the job role that they would always want to, or they're aiming for?
Yes, so we've realized one thing. When we're analyzing our workforce, at somewhere in the middle of their career, mid-management level, we saw a lot of women dropping out. So we looked at it from two angles. One was women leaving because of maternity, and the other one, and not growing because they were just dropping off the workforce. And the other one was women were just not asking for the jobs that they want to do. So we've actually introduced a program at the mid-management level, which we call Ascend. We feel it's a very empowering name. And it's only women who participate in this 6-month program, wherein they are trained. There are mentoring sessions, there are in-classroom training programs. They have sponsors from our exco, and they go through this grind of saying, break your inhibition, have you networked? Are you asking for the job?
Yeah.
Why have you not applied for this job? What stopped you from applying for this job vacancy that has come up right now? Interview. If you fail, it's okay. Because there's this whole study that shows that when women are even 80% ready, they don't put their hand up for the job because they say, I'm not 100.
Yep.
And whereas you could have another counterpart who would say, I'm 60% there, I'm ready for the job. So just to break those mindsets, so we give intensive training. We also have a very strong mentoring network within the organization, so you can reach out to people. In fact, not only for women, we're doing the other thing now. We're having reverse mentoring because of the generational diversity that you need to have. So all of us, including me, has a mentor who is half my age and is telling me how to bring my best self to work. So mentoring works both ways, but we encourage women to put up jobs, and we also have very strong metrics to measure how is this program moving, because you have to measure what you treasure, otherwise it's going to fail.
I love that, you need to measure what you treasure. Also talking about diversity, something that you just spoke about, any specific, practices that you follow at HSBC, which ensures that the company is, say, DEI compliant, and, maybe I believe there are also challenges there. So how do you overcome them?
Okay, so this is going to be a long answer. Hold
I'm
your
ready
breath.
for it.
Okay.
Yes.
So right from hiring the right set of people and getting a right balance while hiring, when we have women who come in, we've got, for motherhood, we have extensive policies. So we have a mother on board policy wherein when a woman, when she tells us that she is going to be going on leave, she's pregnant and she may be proceeding on pregnant maternity leave, right from then we have got consulting help for her, we've got coaches for her, we've got mentors for her who take her through the journey. Her line manager has a very big role to play and they're trained for it. When a woman is coming back, we realize that very often, because of the lack of infrastructure, they don't. And of course, as per law, you can, the organization is supposed to provide for creches, but that's not an evolved setup right now in the country, and it's evolving. So we came up with a policy, and we were the leaders in this, to say, we will give you a nanny allowance. How much you would spend in the creche, you can get a nanny allowance, and now you can keep a nanny at home. You can keep her support at home, like, your mother-in-law, someone, and keep her support for them at home, but just come back to work. Flexible working, of course, is a given. We've also tied up with an agency to provide you with nannies. So you can evaluate to see which are the nannies, which are the forums where you can actually go and get good nannies. So that's like when you come down to your maternity part of it and, leading practices over there. After that, we realized that women not only need support during maternity, after that, it's through different life stages, like I spoke earlier. And of late, we've been seeing a lot of women having endometriosis and having a lot of issues in conceiving a child. So our medical policy includes infertility treatment, IVF, up to 3 times a year. So we cover it as a part of our maternity policy. We've also realized that we have an aging workforce because, people are going to be passing a particular threshold, and menopause is becoming a reality. And I must tell you, the first time I started talking about menopause in the organization, because of my own bias, I sent a mail only to women. And I just felt, oh my God, Archana, what are you doing? Just can you get a little more progressive? And since then, we've had a male gynecologist come into office and address everybody. He's a leading gynecologist about menopause. We not only invited the women, we invited the men and their spouses. The talk did not talk about only what a woman goes through. It also spoke about what is the role of a spouse, because you have somebody at home or your colleague sitting next to you may be going through it. So that's something that we are very focused on. And then after that, this year in our medical insurance policy, we've included menopause as one of the things that you could deal with, and it would be covered under our policy. So completely there. So we believe in having an inclusive organization and having the leading practices. So whether it is declaring our gender pay gap, we are one of the few global organizations that declare our gender pay gap for 80% of our staff. And there is no regulatory requirement for me to do it in India, but I do it because I think it's the right thing to do and be transparent about it.
Wonderful. Moving a step ahead from this, something which is beyond just gender parity. If I had to ask you of your policies when it comes to, say, the LGBTQIA++ community, what is the hiring trend there, and how do you go ahead with that?
So I must tell you, we leave it to our staff to declare whether they belong to the community or no. So,
Sure.
that's not something that I will discuss as to how many people are out or
Sure.
what do we employ. We are a fair playing organization, so we do not discriminate in any shape or form. We have a very strong Pride employee resource group, which is about almost 100 members strong. So we have very strong allyship on the ground. But just to tell you, we are an organization that believes in having diversity at all levels. So when it comes down to LGBTQ, we were amongst the first few organizations to include partner in the medical policy. So we don't call out spouse. We will say partner. It could be the same-sex partner. All our benefits that are allowed under the law for it to be open to the same-sex partner are open for us. In fact, our 10,000 allowance that we give, there was a time when people with the same gender were also able to adopt children.
Yeah.
So the primary caregiver was given their allowance irrespective. So, even if you belong to the community, you were getting the allowance because you were the primary caregiver. And not only that, so all our policies are completely inclusive. Partners are everywhere, whether it is wellness, even like our wellness app, Headspace app is available to your partner.
Yeah.
Is available. And last but not the least is this time in our medical policy, we've just launched it, so I have all the data ready. We've included sex change. So somebody wants to go through a sex change, we had it in our policy. But this year we've also introduced in our policy to say you will get help for cosmetic as well as psychological counseling, because that is an important part of the whole process. So we have actually, gender change included as a part of our policy, which we make available to all staff.
I'll be very keen to also understand. So I can see that there are various strategies that are being put in place to ensure that women are being empowered, are resuming work even after maternity. What kind of change have you seen after that? So is there an increase in productivity, and what's the to be in a Gen Z term, what's the vibe like now?
The vibe is very happening.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's I don't know how to speak in the Gen Z language, but I think happening could be a word there. But what I would say is in India, we have really focused on diversity. It's helped me build my brand. Today, my Gen Z in the Unstopped survey, I'm ranked number 7 in the BFSI space. So completely people want to come and work with us. Besides that, we are the 3rd largest contributor to the group profits. We're the only foreign bank in the country, which is a completely full suite bank. Amongst foreign banks, our performance is really up the stack. So I think it's resulting in every sphere, whether it is building up my EVP, attracting talent, and also delivering back to the country and our HSBC group.
I think it just sounds like a great place to work, and I would want to applaud you for the kind of initiatives that you have taken. It was an absolute pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.